gets these crazy ideas? Wow.
Cats, of course. The cat paintings originally started as kind of a joke in college, where I learned how to paint, because I was dealing with all these it was a very wealthy kind of a school, and I was one of the poor kids that was in it, and a lot of these kids were kind of spoiled, and they were doing a lot of really crappy modern art, you know. They weren't really doing anything properly and walking around with their noses up in the air like they were on the cutting edge of contemporary art. And one of the assignments in my second semester of painting was to do something involving texture. And normally I paint things like portraits. I mean, I paint all kinds of different things, but I can actually paint realistically. And but I had this cat who was like really spiteful and hateful and everything, and also really fluffy and really fat. And I always liked when she was on the arm of a chair, she would drape over the sides of it, you know, just because there was so much of her there. And so I put her up on a Greek, in a painting, I put her up on a Greek column, and she's draping over the sides of it, and she has this real, you know, disdainful, angry look. The ears flattened out, the eyes, you know, glaring at you. And then there was some modern art, Picasso-like non sequiturs I just threw in next to it. And I did it as a joke, but people wanted to started wanting to buy it. And and when galleries, if I'd shopped some of my other work around to galleries, they always zeroed in on what, you know, the couple of cat paintings that I had and said, we want some of those. So for a long time I resisted because I felt like I was whoring myself out doing this kind of stuff, you know, because I was young, I wanted to do something more wild, and I didn't like doing the same thing over and over. But I've come to realize that while these are definitely my bread and butter art, they also are very expressive of me because I'm very experimental, which these are, and I'm a smartass, which is really what all this is too. There's really no symbolism in any of the imagery, you know. The idea was to create something that's just inherently funny looking, because that's, as a kid, that's how I would look at things like Picasso's work, you know. I'm not thinking cubism and things like that. I'm just thinking it's funny looking, so I'm working from that very standpoint. So if somebody looks at my work and they laugh, they get it, you know. They don't have to know what it means if it just tickles them in a way, you know. Now, of course, anybody who owns cats will get more subtext out of it, because what I try to do is I try to depict cats in a very naturalistic way. If you'll notice, they are the most naturalistic aspects of the paintings, and everything else is just weird modern art chaos going on around them. So I always observe the cats that I've had and other people's cats, and those give me the ideas for like the pose of the cat, what they're doing, and I just build everything else around that. And that's basically how it works. Now, I experiment with a lot of different styles, some more impressionistic, and when I did the first one, it was a study in texture, and that's because I was putting the paint on really thick, like peanut butter that you see here.
Is that oil or acrylic?
In this case, it's acrylic.
Okay.
I started out doing them all in oils, and these are acrylic, all acrylic too. So you can see I've just really put a heavy impasto on these. And the idea behind this one, which we call double diptych, because I don't know what a word for 4 canvases in a piece is. Somebody suggested double diptych, and that just sounded so naughty. I had to make that the title of the piece. The idea behind this was to make it look like they were prints, like exact duplicates of an image, like an Andy Warhol factory thing, except they had the texture and everything. But they're all hand-painted originals, and then they would like go up over some New York loft sofa or something like that. That's the kind of look I was going for there, and I call that my Andy Warhol meets Tex Avery kind of a thing, because it's a very more extreme depiction of a cat than the ones in the rest of the paintings. And then I've experimented with a little bit of like French Impressionism, so that's my little Renoir thing right there, called Get Your Licks In. And so that was, because I like Renoir a lot, he's like one of my favorite artists, and I wanted to do something kind of in that style using his palette of colors. And somebody looked at that and said, well, it looks like little girls' room art. I was like, I'm cool with that. Yeah, little girls, we're paying for the art. I'll do little girls. Because some people know me for, you're not seeing it this here, but I can actually do some pretty dark, macabre stuff, you know. And,
we'll have to see some of that next time.
Okay, another month.
Okay.
Another month, I'll bring in the weird stuff. Like this isn't the weird stuff. But, yeah. But I do have some things with me. I brought some pass around materials here, and this is a collection of sketches. It doesn't fill up the whole book, so it won't take you long. But it gives you kind of an idea of some of my process, what my preliminary sketches look like for paintings that'll happen later on. And then this is some of my more darker stuff. This is some photography, Photoshop things that I do, and I'll talk more about those later. But you can pass around and look at them.
Sick. These are sick.
Thank you. You haven't seen this. I know what you mean by sick in that context. I do both kinds of sick. I do like, ooh, that's sick, and then I go, ugh, sick. So I run the spectrum. One of the things I always try to, for the most part, try to do in the paintings is include some kind of texture in them. Not in all of them. Some of the more impressionistic ones, it's just straight ahead paint, you know, just having fun with letting the paint do the work. But you'll find little sculptural elements in there, because I am a sculptor too. But you know, the problem with sculptures is you got to have a place to put it, and that starts taking over your house. You know, unless you can hang your hat on it, it's not very useful for something. So I do all my sculpting on the canvas, and that way I can hang it up on the wall, and it's out of the way. So I'm very pragmatic in my insanity, and I don't always frame my work because I'm cheap, and it's easier to store. But what I started evolving to is the painted mat. Like this here, where I create a mat around the image, or like here on the biz card, and I've done that in a lot of paintings. You'll see that that's kind of here on Catch and Drag. You know, there's kind of a painted mat, even though the image actually breaks through it in the bottom and everything, but it has a little proscenium going on there. I think the first painting I actually did that on was this one, Fly Swatter. See, those of you who are here, you're getting to see all this extra work. This is going on with me. But you can see that's the first time I kind of did a painted mat in the thing. I find that's a fun way to work. And it gives me a chance to experiment with colors and textures even beyond the image that I'm working with. I was going for more of a Japanese kind of a feel for a sushi snitch, and so that's another example of a stylized. And that way, all you have to do if you put a frame on it, just be something simple and black. You know, just a laminate frame, nothing fancy. Some people would ask me, what would you frame these things in if you could? And I go, oh, I'd frame them in those big, gaudy, Baroque, you know, ornate frames, so that way it looks like an important piece of art, because I was at the McNay Art Institute in San Antonio, where I grew up, and they had a really large Picasso there. I mean, like maybe twice the size of that thing right there, big square piece. And it was just a grayscale piece of a face. Probably took them all an hour to do it, okay? But it had this big Baroque frame on it, which says, this is an important piece of art. So I thought, yeah, if I was going to frame these pieces, it would be like that. But that molding cost a lot. It cost more than I charged for the paintings. So, this is one. This one was, I had so much fun painting this one. I did a smaller piece that was similar called Ghost in the Aquarium, and it was just a cat and two clownfish, but with that same kind of a painted mat. And I liked that so much that I made a bigger one, so that one became Ghosts in the Aquarium. And I liked that style and that so much that I did a red one, and that one became Little Hellcat.
I like that.
And there's a lot of texture going on in the painted mat here. So I just, yeah, I'll go to town with. Sometimes I get the idea for the mat before I even do the painting. I have a few canvas sitting around that have mats on them, but I haven't decided what's going to be the actual image inside them. Now, some people would. I don't do a lot of dogs in this style, probably because I don't have any problems with dogs. You put me in a room with a dog, and there's no issues, you know.
You haven't met our dogs.
I was going to say, he hasn't even met mine either.
No, it's just generally cats generate enough frustration to. They lend themselves well to satire. When I paint dogs, I do them realistically.
Oh, yeah. Wow, realistic.
That's well, when I do normally, and these they're going to be stylized. That's a bulldog, you know. So yeah, and
Oh, that poor dog.
but I live around cats and all that, and so and actually this little cat is I liked this pose so much that I made this cat the cat on my business card image. My first business card was that. I used to print them up at Kinko's and mount them to cardboard, and so that's still my phone number up there actually. So I would borrow things from different images from my work and make the pieces like that. I'm making an unholy mess here. I'll clean it up in a bit. Let's see if there's anything else that I want to cover based on
This one looks so normal. It's such pretty kitties. They're so normal looking.
Sometimes
what happened? Was that a bad day for you?
No, actually, no. No, I'll tell you what that was. Actually, sometimes I just want to paint a cat. You know, I just want to, and not worry about any of the surrealistic stuff. But I try to make a certain spectrum for my market. Some people just want a cute cat and stuff like that without all the weird stuff all around it. Most of my audience tends to like all the weird stuff, but I'm sometimes in the mood just to whip out a cat. And this was something I did after a more complicated painting. Sometimes, especially when I work in oils, sometimes I have some paint left over on the palette, and rather than just put it away or something like that, I see if I can use it, and I'll have another canvas standing by, and I'll see if I can whip out something really quick using the paint that's left over on the canvas.